Shivaya.
Om Namah Shivaya.
Om Namah Shivaya. Om Namah Shivaya. Om Namah Shivaya. Welcome to satsang. Thank you for the beautiful chanting. So on this very auspicious day of new beginnings, as Puja Swamiji had mentioned in the Arati, this special holiday of newness, but an inner newness. I'll take one of the questions that have come to us in advance, and then, as always, any question that anyone has here, I'll be happy to take them. I work as a psychotherapist, and often in the evenings after working with many people during the day, I feel completely tired and exhausted. How do I keep the energy and connectivity consciously and constantly without losing my connection to the self? If I'm the doer, everything is exhausting. Whether I'm pumping gas, sewing clothes, or working as a psychotherapist. I mean, it doesn't matter what part of me I'm using. Is it my brain? Is it my hands? Is it my legs? Everything is going to be exhausting if I'm the doer. The good news about the work that is more mental and less physical is that when we realize I'm not the doer, it stops being tiring. If you are one of those people who has to hammer big rocks into medium rocks and medium rocks into little rocks on the side of the road, your arms are going to get tired. And yes, of course, your spiritual connection and your awareness that this is all for God is going to keep your spirits up, but the arms will still tire. But the benefit when we talk about, as the question said, I'm a psychotherapist. So that's not taxing on the actual physical muscles of my body. What's exhausting is the energy that I put into it. And this is what makes the vast majority of our work exhausting. I would imagine if we raised hands in here that very few of us are manual laborers. Some maybe. But my guess is that most of us do some type of a job that involves mostly a lot of sitting. Maybe it's sitting at a desk, maybe it's sitting in meetings, maybe it's sitting in consultation. But my guess looking around the room is that we have very few people who are actually doing too much physical, manual lifting and lugging and pushing and breaking and building that's tiring the muscles. So the question is, what is it that tires us so much? And what tires us is when I realize it's about me. When I think it's about me, I'm the doer. I have to help this person. They are the patient. I am the doctor. I know they don't. I have to fix them. Well, that's tiring. When I realize, we were speaking the other night about being a tool in the divine's hands. When I realize I'm a tool, I'm being used, it loses that ability to exhaust you. The exhaustion is also, I'm somehow taking something from myself which is not being replenished. And that's also what's exhausting, is I'm giving energy to you, to this project, to this work, which isn't being replenished. Hence, at the end of the day, I feel depleted energetically. Well, the solution to this is a couple-fold. Number one, realize you're not fixing anybody. We are blessed to be able to serve as tools, as different type of tools. And some of us may be the envelope stuffing tools, and some may be the letter writing tools before it gets folded and stuffed into the envelope. And some may be the stamp licking tools. And we may be a dozen different type of tools. Some may be the sit here and talk with you and you feel better. Some may be the sit here and take your temperature and listen to your heartbeat and write you a prescription for medicine to make you feel better. Whatever our role is, whatever way we're being used as a tool, from the letter stuffer to the letter writer to the stamp paster to the prescription writer to the listen to you, talk to you, to everything in between. We're just a tool. And we're blessed to be a tool in the hands of God. And so when you realize everything is a blessing, it stops being tiring. And it stops being about you. It's not about you to fix that person. It's about you to be just a vehicle through which it can happen. My favorite analogy for this is the analogy of the moon. And I'm always reminded of it on full moons, which it's not today, but the question has come up and hence I'm reminded of it again, is, we look at the moon, and throughout history so much has been written in awe of the moon and praise of the moon, and so many poems and beautiful songs have been written in praise of the moon and the light of the moon and the beauty of the full moon and the full moon that guides the sailors home and all of this. Well, the moon doesn't have any light. The moon is a lightless piece of rock. Scientists think, I was watching this really interesting documentary, they now think it was part of the earth that kind of broke off from the earth. So it's a lightless piece of rock that's held in our orbit with a magnetic pull. But it's basically very much like other lightless pieces of rock in the atmosphere. What makes the moon special? That it has figured out how to be in orbit between the sun and the earth in such a way that it can be used by the sun to reflect the sun's light onto the part of the earth that otherwise is dark. When do we see the moon? When it's dark. Why is it dark? Because the sun is busy giving light to our sisters and brothers in California at this time. Other side of the earth, it's light. And what does the moon do? Serves as a tool to reflect that light of the sun onto the part of the earth that isn't getting the light directly, the part of the earth that's otherwise dark. And when the moon is full, it means she's in perfect orbit, perfect angle, perfect alignment. And when we say new moon, well, there's no such thing as a new moon or a full moon or a half moon. The moon is always the same shape, doesn't change. But her ability to reflect that light changes as her orbit changes, as her angle changes. And so in our lives, for me, the metaphor is so powerful because whatever we're able to do, if I think it's about me, if the moon suddenly got worried, oh my God, where's my light? Oh my God, I've got to shine. Oh my God, you see that guy and he's lost and I've got to be the one to bring him home and it's up to me and he's depending on me and look, he's singing for me. If you doubt it's about me, look at this guy, he's just written a song for me. Of course it's about me. I'm the one. And if the moon thinks like that, well, it's a very stressful job. And likely, if the moon is too stressed, like all of us, she would go a little bit out of alignment, as we all do when we get stressed. We go out of alignment. We get out of proper orbit in our lives. And so if the moon thought that and then the moon got stressed, she'd go out of orbit. In our lives, if we can realize, like the moon, can I serve? Can I just serve to reflect in whatever my role may be, to reflect that light of the sun onto the earth? So whatever I'm doing, whatever aspect I'm reflecting, whatever way I'm serving, can I realize it's not my light? It's not about me to manufacture it or produce it or have the answers or do it or know it. My job is stay in alignment and realize I'm the tool, I'm the reflector. And so as a psychotherapist, circling back to the question, if you're sitting there with the patients trying to think of what to say, what's the next thing, it's going to be tiring because then it's all about you. But if you can simply connect to them, spirit to spirit, heart to heart, that which is supposed to be spoken will flow through you. And it may not be in exactly the way that you read the words in the book. But if the person in front of you needed the book, they could have just gone to the bookstore and bought the book. They don't have to be paying you hundreds of dollars to sit in front of you for 50 minutes. If they're coming to you, it's not just about how can you recite the book. How can you recite what your teacher told you in school? It's about how can you be connected to that person. I mean, somebody wrote the book. Somebody came up with the lesson plan. What makes them more able to understand the workings of the person in front of you who is connected to your heart than you are? Connect to them and allow yourself to be a reflector of the divine light. And then what you'll find is not only are they helped a lot more, but you are also nourished and nurtured in doing the work. And this is true regardless of what we do. If it's all about me, if it's up to me, it's exhausting. if I'm a tool, and whether I'm an artist, a musician, a website designer, the envelope stuffer, the CEO, it doesn't matter what I'm doing. But as I do it, if I can do it as a tool in the hands of the divine with the singular goal being to let that energy flow through me, to let that wisdom, that light flow through me, our work is going to be more successful. There is a reason that Apple computers pays people 30 minutes a day on the clock to meditate. They have a meditation room in Apple. True. 30 minutes a day on the clock. It's not forced, but every employee gets 30 minutes a day to spend meditating on the clock. Why? Why would an organization like that be paying people to meditate? Because they understand, they're not in the spiritual awakening business. They're in business. They're a commercial industry. It's not an ashram. Their highest goal is not enlightenment of the most number of people on the planet. Their highest goal is to sell the most number of products. But what they've learned is when people are connected, they're actually more creative. When people are connected, they're actually more efficient. They're actually better workers. And so even if your goal is to just be a better psychotherapist, painter, musician, envelope stuffer, CEO, that spiritual connection is going to make you better because it's going to connect you with that flow of energy in the universe, of creativity, of love, of truth, of oneness. And then it's not tiring. Then the only stuff that tires you is if you've got to hammer the rocks or, the physical body gets tired. But the mind doesn't get tired. That's when you find you can just keep going and going and going and going because you're actually being nourished while you do it. What you are doing and the way you are doing it is nourishing you. And that's all in the mind. It's not, I've got to find the right job that enables me to be nourished. It's all about how you think about it. How you do whatever you do on that entire spectrum. And if you do it as a tool in God's hands, and you surrender, you get nourished along the way. And you're much more beneficial to the people around you. If there are any questions here, I would be happy to take them. Yeah. Well, it's certainly not an action of me. If you say, what is that one action or deed or thing that made me who I am? It's definitely nothing I did. It's the overlap and intersection of grace and surrender. Everything we've been talking about. So grace is there. Nothing I did to bring grace. No way that I was somehow more special or more magnetic to grace. That somehow it was, more here. No. Grace is there. And it was the intersection of surrender to that and grace, meaning the grace is there. You know, the example Puja Swamiji always gives is the sun is shining. But if we're sitting in our room with the curtains closed, we're going to be sitting in the dark. So you need the sun, but the sun is there. But you also need to open the blinds. To sit in the dark room and bemoan the lack of the sun. Or try to figure out where to bring the sun from outside is not very useful. The sun is there. You just have to open the curtains or clean your window, whatever metaphor works better for you. And so for me, on a personal level, and it wasn't just one time. I mean, it wasn't one experience of grace and one experience of surrender. It was the first time they intersected, and I realized, oh my God, so this is what life is. I made a commitment. It wasn't a verbal, literal, conscious commitment at that moment that I sat myself down and, but I knew that this is what I was meant to do. And so along the way, you have to keep surrendering. You keep surrendering, even when you think, this is what I was saying last night, there's the ultimate surrender and then you keep doing it. Because you make that general, global, ultimate, okay, God, I'm in your hands. But then things come up every day, your ego here, your desire there, your frustration there, and you have to remember, oh wait, I've surrendered. And then you surrender again. And then you keep reminding yourself, oh wait, I've surrendered. And what I have found on a personal level is that every time I feel stuck, it's always because I haven't surrendered. There's nothing, I've been here 23 years, and there has not been a time I can think of in which the solution to anything, either external or internal, was ever about me getting more in it. Me figuring it out, me doing it. The solution internally and externally has always come. You do the work. But the work is never the obstacle. The work is just what we do. You've got to do something. So the work is what we do. It's never the obstacle. The obstacle is how I'm interacting with the work or with my life or with my relationships, depending on, different people's life situations. But for me, every single time I have felt stuck, it has always been because I'm not surrendering. It has always been because somehow through the side door, through the back door, through a crack in the ceiling I didn't know existed, some vestige of my ego managed to, squeeze its way in and project itself all over the room and sort of convince me that it was the truth of the moment. Or desire, or some pattern from another time of this life, or maybe even from a past life, who knows, but something that I was just stuck with. And it's always and only been cleared through just surrender. Just the awareness of, oh yeah, wait. Because grace is always there. And when you feel blocked, it's just because you literally have blocked it. I think about it really as a spiritual heart attack, because that's how it feels a lot of times. And if you think about that experience of feeling stuck, it almost feels internally like a heart attack. but it's a spiritual heart attack, where a physical heart attack is caused many times when our blood vessels can't have blood flow through them because we've got plaque, literally physical junk that has formed in the blood vessels. And so there's no room for the blood to flow through. Now, the blood is there in the body. Blood is being pumped, it's flowing, but it cannot get where it needs to go because the vessel is clogged. And this is where all of what our great cardiac surgeons do, if they clear the vessels. They don't have to bring blood from outside. They don't have to, jumpstart your blood to flow. They just have to clear the vessel, and then the blood is flowing automatically. And that for me has been that intersection of surrender and grace, is when I'm not surrendered, my literal blood vessel is clogged. It's clogged of ego. It's clogged of desires. It's clogged of ignorance. It's clogged of my own life history, my life stories, my dramas, my sanskaras, the impressions, whatever it may be. It's clogged of that. And the only solution is to unclog it. And that's what surrender does. And then the grace is there, like the blood is there to flow. The grace is there flowing. Yes, last question this evening. Beautiful. Well, first of all, don't feel badly. This is how you know you're still human. And there's lots of ways. And what you'll find is they build on each other. And so the more you remember, the more you remember. Until it just becomes very, very natural. The first and most important aspect is try to love God even more. So the times when you're remembering God, see how much in love with God you can become. Because the more in love you are, the less likely you are to forget. When you really are in love, doesn't matter what you're doing. You're remembering the loved one. It's a sunset, you think, oh, I wish he were here, or she were here. It's an ice cream, you think, oh, I wish they were here. Whatever you're doing, you're thinking of them. So at the core level, try to love God as much as you can. And so in that trying to remember, as you look for God in the world, look with eyes of love. So it's not just an exercise, a cognitive exercise of I remember God in this moment. But in my cognitive remembrance of God, my heart is full of love. You get a call or a text message or something from someone on your phone, and there are some people who, even before you've spoken to them or you've read the message, just seeing their name on the phone, and suddenly your heart is full of love. Like, it doesn't matter what the message was. It doesn't matter what they're going to say, but you just, and even before you've connected, that heart is full. Let your relationship with God be that, so that as you remember, it's flowing love. And so ways to remember are many, and I would say really whatever works for you. I mean, there's lots of different just mnemonic techniques of remembering anything, which certainly work to remember God as well as it works to remember to, whatever you have to remember. And so the deepest, though, I think, is the practice of seeing God in everything. So God is infinite, which we know. It's what we're told in the scriptures. And of course, on a rational level, if God weren't infinite, the question becomes, well, then how do I know it's God, right? I mean, then what makes it different from a person or a couch or a tree? God is God because God is infinite. So if God is infinite, then God is in everyone and everything. Because there's no place infinity isn't. And of course, our scriptures have told us God is in everyone and everything. Quite literally. Everything in the universe is pervaded by the divine. Okay, there you have it. So can you see God? So start a practice. Whoever you see, can you see God in them? And that's an extraordinary practice. Can you meet them instead of body to body, as soul to soul, as divine to divine? Because then you've got to come at it from a place that's soul. These two eyes aren't going to see God in the form of the person in front of you. You've got to use your third eye. You've got to open your heart. You've got to see with your heart. And so can you move through the world seeing with the heart, seeing with the third eye, and see the divine everywhere? And what you'll find is A, it'll make you remember God a lot more, and B, it'll make your earthly relationships flow much better. Because then it's not about you as the object and what you've done or what you haven't done, or you who are annoying me, or you whatever. If the aim is always, can I see God in you? Doesn't mean I love what you're doing. Doesn't even mean that I accept what you're doing, or that I'm interested in tolerating what you're doing, or that I may choose to not be in your presence for more than the next 10 seconds. We make all these choices. Just because I'm seeing the divine doesn't mean that I'm prepared to be in any circumstance, at any time, listening to anything, watching anything, bearing anything. It simply means that even in that experience, in the being through whom that experience that I'm now walking away from was flowing, I'm able to see divinity. There's divinity in a tsunami. It doesn't mean you walk into it. Divinity in a tornado doesn't mean you walk into it. And so seeing the divine doesn't mean, because that's always the question that comes up. So do I then just become a doormat for the world? No, of course not. You avoid tsunamis and tornadoes like everybody avoids them. But you're still able to recognize that they are part of the divine creation. And they're not, an affront to you or something that you have to fight off and deal with. In the same way as you move through the world, can you see the divine? So that's a great technique. Start with people, it's easier, usually. Sometimes it's easier with plants and trees or animals. Start wherever it's easiest. And that'll become just a habit, a practice. Start with people you already love. Becomes a practice. And then slowly, slowly, more and more and more. Be sure to take God's name before you eat anything or drink anything. Another A, great practice, and B, really good mnemonic device. Well, we eat and drink kind of all day long. So if I've decided before I eat or drink anything, I'm going to take God's name. I'm going to remember God. I'm going to thank God. I'm going to connect with God. With the God outside of me who has given me this. With the God in me who is connecting with the God in the water, in the food. So yet another way to make whatever you do, or almost whatever you're doing, an opportunity to connect with God. And the last piece that I would say is your mantra is a really great tool. So if you have one, wonderful. If you don't have one, before you go, we should get you one. It begins with you chanting the mantra, and you have to remember to do it, and you're doing your japa and your mind wanders, and you bring it back, and the mind wanders, and you bring it back, and slowly, 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 the mantra starts chanting itself. And the mantra becomes within you almost this life raft. I mean, for me, my mantra sometimes literally feels like a life raft that is pulling me back toward God. That if I just can grab on, it's all I have to do. And it's going to pull me straight back to God. Yeah, of course. Actually, I'm so sorry. We actually have to bring satsang to a conclusion here. I have a call with the United Nations that I have to be on in 3 minutes. But we can start with it tomorrow. How's that? They actually were so kind to keep the call at 8:30. Usually it's earlier, but because of the summertime and Aarti's later and Satsang's later, I said I can't be on before 8:30. So they actually have scheduled it so kindly for me. So I should be on time. But we'll take it tomorrow. We'll start with it tomorrow.